This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 31st of May, 2019, and I am 2J.
I am JM, filling in for 2M, who is in Kisumu celebrating his birthday. Happy birthday, 2M.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines.
Yes.
Daily Nation, prayer in futility. The Standard, wife, daughter and Babayao's millions probe. Something's wrong with those words.
Yeah.
And The Star, I walked barefoot when Uhuru had shoes. DP Ruto.
Ooh, wow.
How sad.
Yeah.
Let's start with Babayao's millions probe.
I think the editor fell asleep when this went to
He
print.
did.
Or maybe an intern wrote this. It doesn't make any sense. Wife, daughter, and Baba Yao's millions probe. It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful and it's clumsy as well.
Very
and I don't
clumsy.
think it deserves to be a headline topic.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
So I'd say we look at it against our criteria. And We
Yes.
have a three-part
Yeah.
criteria that we use to look at and break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves three questions. Is this headline repetitive or is it topical? Is it speculative or is it groundbreaking? And finally, is it thoughtful or,
Or just plain lazy. This is beyond plain lazy.
It's
Absolutely.
not thoughtful. There's nothing
I don't even want to know
look
the
at
story.
it.
We're tossing
Trash.
it.
Trash that.
Goodbye.
Toss it. I walked barefoot when Uhuru had shoes. DP Ruto. And a prayer in futility.
The Star headline
Let's do this
has
together.
such an agenda to
You think
pit
so?
the two of them against each other. Because I
Is it
think,
really pitting or are we just reflecting what we saw?
Precisely.
but are we right in saying that DP Ruto didn't actually say those words? He inferred it, but he did not directly say the president was wearing shoes while I was barefoot.
So let's just recap what
Okay,
happened
what
yesterday.
happened
right?
yesterday. Okay,
The
cool.
DP, speaking of the prayer breakfast, gave I think a pretty moving story of how, as a young boy, when Jomo died, he took his cattle back, and he basically came out of nowhere, and now is dining with the president. He's a deputy president. Out of nothing.
Very humble
beginnings.
Yes.
And I saw it as him rekindling this whole hustlers versus dynasties narrative. That's what I saw it as.
Yeah.
Right. Much to the annoyance
Of the president.
Of the president.
of the president,
Yeah.
and I think also of the dynastical families in this country.
But I have to say this, did you know that the dynasties occupy a very small minority and that the rest of
That's
the,
right.
of the public identifies with that story? How many times have your parents told you stories of their humble beginnings? How many times have you resonated with those stories of cattle, those stories of, we are all, many of us are not first generation Nairobians, we are second or third generation
Very
Nairobians.
true.
So
Yeah. And I think in light of the frustrations that the deputy president has been going through, I think we were reading, they left him out of the program. His name was not there.
That was the gossip column.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is not the first time that this has happened.
And it is protocol to have him on the program.
Precisely.
So to remove him from the program is not a mistake.
It's a deliberate scheme to frustrate and embarrass him. But I think that in light of that, the deputy president is doing a good job. He's shining through it all.
Also, politics is about showbiz. Right?
It is perception.
Politics is a sport, it's about perception, and I think the DP did a very good job yesterday at combining being inspirational as well as giving entertainment.
Oh, yes.
I would
So
agree.
I think he did a marvelous job at that.
Can we then say that our prayer was in futility? Because I say we toss this headline.
I agree. I do.
I say we toss this headline. It's implying a fight and making
Yes.
us
Yeah.
have this.
It is
war,
not lifting a
tug
veil of
war.
ignorance, yeah.
Okay.
But we did have the 17th prayer breakfast. I didn't even realize that we'd had 17 before.
And JM, I think you had an edit that you wanted to make.
Yes.
this
I
headline.
think, first of all, the Daily Nation did a good job. They kept it short and sweet. Prayer and futility. First of all, I think they should have removed the question mark.
Agreed,
and
yeah.
been more assertive about it. Because, to be frank, this represents the mood of
the
Kenyans.
yeah.
Right? In regard, Kenyans are a bit fatigued about all these prayers that we're making, but then no action. And those were also the sentiments of the president yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's actually do something. But then I think it would have been more punchy if they, for instance, said 17th prayer breakfast or 17th breakfast prayer in futility.
Yeah, I think that is a better headline.
Something like that. But altogether, good job.
Are we convinced that prayer is going to deliver us?
We are a Christian nation. Okay, we don't expressly say that
I think
in
we're
our
too prayerful.
constitution.
We're
Nation.
too prayerful.
We're too prayerful, a nation, honestly. And I
We're
think some of these.
asking God to deliver us from decisions that we've made ourselves.
Precisely.
We're acknowledging that we are sinful people and that we need a higher power to be able to lift us from the depths to which we
Prof's
serve.
point is that we're disturbing God.
Are you
right?
guys serious?
We're asking. No, he's looking down on us and he's like, my people, please.
Absolutely. I think human beings sometimes underestimate just how powerful they are. You know, we have dominion over this earth, and these are decisions that we can make ourselves. I mean, we know what the problems are. We just need to act. We don't need divine intervention.
Ms. K,
yet.
we've hurt your heart.
Not
You've
yet.
not hurt my heart. I'm just thinking that we do need to pray. I don't know.
We need to act.
Yes,
Yeah,
and we also need to act. The Bible itself says that faith without action is dead. So we do need that action.
Yeah. I mean, someone was saying that a few years ago they had 4 prayer breakfasts in 1 year.
But they're not all about corruption.
Yes,
guys.
true. This is the first one.
Okay.
But we can.
As good as the headline is, I would still say we toss it. I think it could have been better.
It's also a
think so?
negative story.
Yes, it is a negative story. I think
we
the
are all
nation
about
has started
positivity.
to set a very high bar for itself. So
Yeah.
this doesn't cut it for me.
This is, by the way, the kind of headline I expected from the Standard. Given the last few weeks,
The tangent that they've taken.
the
I
tangent
agree.
they've taken in terms of keeping the headlines short and sweet. Yeah,
Goodbye.
Toss it.
right.
And on to our next segment, the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. And just like the headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the cartoons for you. We ask ourselves, is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or is it pessimistic? And finally, is it effective or just plain lazy? I see you started with the land of Ndula.
Yes. So today we have a black limousine with VIPs inside it. We have a caricature of DP Ruto constantly crying. I think that's Baba Man. We have former President Moi, former President Kibaki, and current President, what's his name? Kenyatta. Oh,
Uhuru Kenyatta sitting pretty. Oh my goodness.
Front row.
Yes.
And so I think the context of this is that there were amendments made to the list. My sincerest apologies to the President.
The Inspector General of Police this week released a new list that gives an indication of the people who are cleared to
overlap
on
the
traffic,
road, yeah.
right? Basically.
And so the people who were added was...
Yeah. So the initial list had left out certain people who are very important in the state.
I do note
Chief
that
Justice, for example,
the
as
Chief
you
Justice was
mentioned.
left out,
Okay.
and I found that very strange. If you have all the speakers, how do you not include the Chief Justice?
Yeah.
But subsequent lists included him. They
Absolutely.
noticed their mistake.
So
and
more
so the
comprehensive list
caption
came out.
here is Baba Man saying, "Phew, I made the VIP road clearance list."
Yeah, you never know. You know, almost 10 years after being deputy
The PM.
the trappings of power.
I
could
know,
be
he still
withdrawn.
continues, yeah.
So I don't know. It could be that, or it could be that everyone is going to Narok tomorrow for Madaraka Day, and these are the people who are going to get a clear road.
Yeah.
Everybody else will be stopped.
I say, let's see what else we have before we decide.
I
Are
agree.
you parking it?
Why? Do you want to throw it?
Tell me, please. Is it effective?
No. I mean, it's not saying much,
Is
is
it
it?
humorous?
No.
No.
All right.
Toss it,
Thank you for grounding us. All right.
Toss it. All right, cartoon number 2.
Oh gosh, Ozone.
By Ozone.
Ozone.
Right, so this is our cartoon with handcaps on the side and the Holy Bible.
JM, let me bring you into this world of ours.
Yes.
Before we describe this cartoon, I'd like to just put it clear on the table that 2J has a big thing against violently opposed to
Why?
Ozone. So regardless of what he does,
Okay.
he'd have to do a miraculous cartoon to have to say something nice. So let's go for it.
So the handcuffs, he says, what was needed in the fight against corruption? And then on the other side, you have a Bible, what
And a
is now
Quran, I
needed,
think.
and a Quran.
You know what happened this week? Early in the week, the DPP convened a meeting together with DCI and EACC, and they brought clergymen and imams together, and they said that they want the imams and the clergymen to help them in the war against corruption.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's the context in which
This
then
cartoon is
we
true,
are seeing
yes,
this
and
cartoon,
it's
and
true.
then of course yesterday's prayer breakfast.
Yes.
Once again, I don't think this is very imaginative.
Context aside, this is a terrible cartoon. It's lazy. It's ineffective. It's sloppy.
Yeah, but also I'm skeptical that the church can actually help us on this.
You guys, I think that this is what they're trying to do, and what even that prayer breakfast is trying to do is appeal to our morality.
Yeah.
Because we've
Absolutely.
noticed that we have this tendency to just do what's wrong. So if we have a problem, and this is a social problem, let's try and identify where that could be housed. And it could be housed in the fact that we don't have any institutions that can police us morally, or that they're not strong enough. So that's why they're appealing to the church.
Yeah.
But the church also, we could argue, has become morally bankrupt
Itself.
to a certain extent, right?
That
So how is it? So how can we depend on them to be the ones to, to catch the thieves who are taking money
Maybe
to
we should
church?
just keep having more prayer
I don't
breakfasts,
know.
right? Anyway.
Stop being sarcastic. I see you there.
Finally.
Gado.
Wow.
Binyavanga Wainaina, 1971 to 2019. I think today Gado is doing an ode to Binyavanga Wainaina. He passed away, and I think his funeral service was held earlier
memorial
this week. His
yesterday.
memorial was yesterday. So we have a book on which, on the cover of it, is a caricature of Binyavanga smiling away in his African outfit, and the reference to the timeline of his life. And on the side is a quote that says, "All people have dignity. There's nobody who was born without a soul and a spirit."
I mean, we've said this before. Gado does like to, give an ode to circumstances that have happened. When we had the Dusit attack, he did the candle that I was not amused with, but it was appropriate. And
it was appropriate. And I think this is appropriate. And we leave it at that. And we do recognize that Binyavanga is a literary of our times.
Yes,
absolutely.
Inspiring many other writers.
Yeah, I mean, 100 most influential people in the world, 2014. That's amazing.
It's a big deal.
He made significant contributions to the literary field in Kenya. He inspired and I think even mentored Shimamanda. Ngozi,
yes.
Right? He started the Kwani Trust, or was part of the founders, and one of their purpose is to make
books affordable and accessible.
More affordable for us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they have done that, and I hope that they continue to do that even as he goes away.
So that's his legacy.
Let his legacy continue.
Absolutely.
However,
we will we will put it away, but not trash it.
Right.
So it is not our winning headline. In fact,
you're really grounding me today, Ms.
Today, by the way, we're going to walk that fine line of being good people.
Right.
All right. Agreed.
So we have no winning cartoon and no winning headline. What is our final thought today?
And now, our final thought.
Don't know what two of you say about that.
So today our final thought comes from the book entitled The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. So he was actually a lawyer, and at the age of 25 he quit to become an inspirational speaker. And so this book has sold, I think, almost 50 million copies. I think it's one of the most well-known books in the world.
I think we all have a copy of it.
Most people do have a copy.
I'm familiar with it.
So it is a fable about fulfilling your dreams and reaching your destiny. So the book gives the fable about a man named Julian Mantle. He was a high-profile lawyer with priorities that centered around money, power, and prestige. So he represents the view of society, how the author thinks that we are, the things that we focus on. So this man, Mantle, he has a heart attack. And once he's discharged from the hospital, he sells all his possessions, he sells his mansion, he sells this Ferrari, and he goes to India to seek a more meaningful life. And so he goes to the Himalayan mountains where he's taught the 7 virtues of eternity. Enlightenment, that's what it is. So I think we're going to list the 7 virtues, but I think we're only going to highlight 3, the 3 that we found the most important, and appealing. So you have 1, master your mind. Follow your purpose, practice Kaizen, live with discipline, respect your time, selflessly serve others, and embrace the present. So I think the one that spoke to me the most is practice Kaizen. So Kaizen is a Japanese principle, and it's a word that means improvement. So the aim here is that you should be constantly pursuing self-improvement, the improvement of oneself. So the basic principle of Kaizen is change is for good. Because when you separate the words, Kai means change and Zen means good. So it's constantly pursuing change, which is a good thing for oneself. So it's actually a business practice that a lot of big Fortune 500 companies use in order to ensure that their employees are constantly improving themselves.
But I think that if you wanted to improve yourself, the thing that struck me most, aside from Kaizen, which I think is a wonderful principle, is discipline. I think that one of the things that you have to have is discipline and the willpower to change and do these things. Why is this? Because they say, in fact, the whole book is said in a fable. And there's a fable within that fable in which the guy uses, I think we have to do this book, the book about memory. I forget its name.
Moonwalking with Einstein.
Moonwalking with Einstein. So in Moonwalking with Einstein, you create a mental image of something so that you remember it continuously.
Yes.
So for us to remember all of these principles, because there are very many and they're very wordy, the Manto, or rather Robin Sharma creates a mental image of a garden with a sumo wrestler and a lighthouse, and all of these things are mental markers for you to remember each of these principles to live by. So the principle to live by, when you think about discipline, is what he calls a pink coiled wire. So he thinks of it as a pink coiled wire for this reason. Each on its own, each of those elements of the wire are very weak, and you can break them easily. But the whole coil together is very, very strong. So in the same way you have Kaizen, which is continuously growing and bettering yourself, discipline is about having that repetitive action of repeating those actions over and over again, and being able to will yourself to do it. Because if you do not will yourself to do it, then you'll never build that strength that the coil has together. And I guess that is what we do need as a people in Kenya. What you're saying today is that what we don't have is discipline.
No.
We have the will. We want to change.
But there's no action.
We're not willing ourselves to repetitively do this thing over and over again.
Now, the thing that spoke to me, the third principle that spoke to me, was the one on purpose, following your purpose, right? And this is this comes out in a very big way in this book. And what he's basically talking about here is that we all have a mission to fulfill on earth. Right? And so what he says is that we ought to first of all have a vision, and then you set goals, right, towards working towards that vision now, right? And once you've set those goals, then you also cultivate this culture of discipline. And he talks about this rule, the magic rule of 21, where behavior becomes a habit after 21 days. So if you want to, change something in your life for the better, if you want to cultivate certain
then do it
behaviors
over and over
precisely
again
for them to become a habit,
21
days over and over again consistently.
And
that's one of the things he talks about.
I think that so perfectly speaks into the due process theory we spoke about yesterday. Because we said that your system 1 is your intuition and your system 2 is your logic, and you have to feed into your habits in order for it to become a habitual thing, so that it then becomes instant and your gut feeling and its intuition. I think that's
absolutely. So that blends in, I think, quite well with the other two principles that you've
So
spoken
I guess
about.
what you're
But the
trying
other
to
thing
say,
about purpose that he says is that, and I think this is also at this point in time in Kenya, pretty good, that what we ought to do is pursue purpose as opposed to pursuing money, right? Kenyans right now, we are so consumed with get-rich-quick schemes.
And we do, because corruption is just betting.
The betting culture that's taking root. That kind of thing.
Even the borrowing culture. I think there was a headline the other day about people not being able to pay back their loans. So this desire to get money quick.
And so the point that he's making here also is that if you fulfill your purpose, then money will
follow after. And I think that was one of the books in the Book of Five Rings, the Book of Wind. He said that you should not pursue money and fame and priority that center around prestige. Because once you find your purpose, the money will always follow after.
With the prestige and all of that.
And you will continuously improve yourself, because that's the whole point of a purpose. You're not working for money, you're working for yourself and trying to better yourself. Kenyans, today I want to tell you, sometimes this book told me something interesting, that sometimes we have liberty but we lack freedom. And I found that a very interesting concept.
That's deep. Break that down for Kenyans.
Let me try and break it down, even for myself, because I'm still trying to work it through my own mind. What do you mean I have liberty but I lack freedom? So what he says is that by liberty, we have the freedom to go where we want and to do whatever it is we want. And this freedom cuts across whether it's being with your family or picking a pursuit in life. We have all of these things. But what we do is that we've become slaves to our impulses. What we do is that we are reactive rather than proactive. We are just like the waves. We go wherever we're tossed and we do whatever it is thrown our way, and we just react to it. So he gives an example, and Amisa might come my way for this one, of you being at home with your family and you're spending quality time with them. Then someone from work calls you with an urgent crisis. You get up and you start working and running and doing what it is that you need to do for work. without stopping to question which of these two tasks I don't know if I'll have a job on Monday, but let me inspire you, please. Is more vital to my overall well-being and to my life's purpose. So we need to step back and ask ourselves, what is it that I'm doing? Because a key ingredient of a meaningful and enlightened life is the freedom to choose what is right from what is pressing.
Amen.
So, happy Madaraka Day.
Yes.
Have a great weekend and see you next week.
See you.